Right now, in shade gardens all across America, millions of people are growing a medicine and calling it a decoration. They planted it for the arching stems and the row of little white bells that dangle along them every spring. A tasteful green thing for the corner where the lawn gives up. In 2013, the garden industry even crowned it Plant of the Year, and almost none of the people who bought it have the faintest idea what they actually put in the ground. Because for 2,000 years, on 3 separate continents, this was never scenery. This was the plant people reached for when their knees ground bone on bone, when their hands stiffened and their fingers stopped closing, when a shoulder locked up or a joint began to catch and click with every step. Roman physicians used it, Chinese healers used it, Native Americans dug it out of these same woods, and a small handful of herbalists are still quietly digging it today for the exact same reason. The strangest part is that the plant has been telling us the truth the entire time. Translate its scientific name out of the original Greek and you get 2 plain words. Many knees. Someone, centuries ago, looked at this thing and named it after the aching joints it was meant to fix. And then we forgot we ever knew. So how does a plant used for 20 centuries end up sold as a leaf you plant and forget? This is Solomon's seal. Welcome to nature's lost vault. The name Solomon's seal has nothing to do with knees and everything to do with the root. Dig it up and you find a thick, pale rhizome scarred with round marks, one for every year the plant has lived, each dying stem leaving its own seal pressed into the flesh behind it. Ancient herbalists thought those marks looked like the wax seal of King Solomon, the wise king of Scripture, and reasoned that a plant signed by Solomon had to hold some of his wisdom. The Greek botanists were blunter. They saw a knuckled, many-jointed root, decided it mirrored a row of human joints, and named it for what it treated. A plant shaped like a joint, for joints. It sounds like pure superstition. Usually it is. This time it happened to be right, and it took modern chemistry 2,000 years to catch up. For most of history, none of this was secret lore. It was common knowledge. In 1597, the English herbalist John Gerard wrote that no plant on earth compared to it for closing wounds and knitting broken bones. Nicholas Culpeper, whose herbal outsold nearly every book in the English language except the Bible, prescribed the root for bruises, for sprains, and for the deep aches that move into the joints as a body ages. The Romans knew it too. Dioscorides wrote it down in the 1st century. And an ocean away, long before any of those books arrived, native peoples were pulling the same jointed root out of American soil, cooking the young shoots like asparagus and boiling the starchy root like a potato when the season was lean, all while using that same root as medicine for sore joints and bad backs. Food and pharmacy in a single plant. In China, its close cousin still holds a permanent place in the traditional pharmacy under the name Yu Ju, the remedy for a body gone dry and stiff. Different languages, different centuries, the same plant, and the same complaint. So what happened to all that knowledge? Nothing dramatic. No ban, no raid, no warning label. Solomon's seal was simply outcompeted by the pharmacy counter. As pills took over the home remedy shelf, the old uses slipped out of memory, and the plant got handed a second career it never asked for. Nurseries noticed those elegant arching stems and the leaves edged in cream, and started selling it as an ornamental. By 2013, the Perennial Plant Association, the trade group that decides what fills the benches at your local garden center, named the variegated version its Plant of the Year, and growers shipped it out by the truckload. An entire generation met this plant as furniture. They learned its shape, its shade tolerance, The handy fact that deer leave it alone, and not one word about the 20 centuries of joints behind it. You would think somebody would have mentioned it. Almost nobody did. The knowledge did not die. It just shrank, down to a few herbalists still digging the root the old way, while everyone else stood back and admired the leaves. Walk into one of their shops now, and a small bottle of the tincture, pressed from that same root, runs about the price of a good dinner. The plant that fills it spreads for free in the shade and asks for nothing. Here is what those herbalists know that the garden centers do not. Most joint remedies do one thing. They fight inflammation, or they mute the pain signal. Solomon's seal seems to work on the part almost nothing else touches, the moisture and the tension in the tissue itself. The people who use it talk about the dry, grinding, catching kind of joint. The knee that crunches on the stairs. The shoulder that never came all the way back. The tendon rubbed raw from the same motion repeated 100,000 times. If you are past 60, you already know the joints it is talking about. The hand that aches folding laundry on a cold morning. The knee you have to talk down the porch steps. The stiffness that used to burn off by noon and now just settles in and stays. Two of the most respected herbalists in America, Jim McDonald and David Winston, reach for it specifically for that friction. And for tendons and ligaments that have gone either too tight or too slack, because oddly, the same root seems to coax both back toward the middle. The old way of explaining it is that the plant brings water and give back to worn tissue, the way a drop of oil quiets a dry hinge. And there is a clue to that right in the fresh root. Pull one from the ground and it feels faintly slippery between your fingers, almost like a gel. That slick, watery quality is not a metaphor. It is chemistry, and it points straight at what the plant is actually made of. And this is where the superstition turns into chemistry. Solomon's seal is loaded with a class of compounds called steroidal saponins. In 2023, a review in the journal Phytochemistry counted more than 150 of them across this plant family, and laid out their documented anti-inflammatory and anti-osteoporotic activity. In plain terms, activity against swelling and against the thinning of bone at the same time. The root also carries allantoin, the same soothing compound the drugstore quietly folds into your skin cream. But the real kicker is the molecule at the center of those saponins, a sapogenin called diosgenin. Diosgenin is one of the raw templates the pharmaceutical industry has used for decades to build steroid drugs. So the plant your neighbor is growing for its foliage is made from the same starting material as some of the medicines that replaced it. It was never just a leaf. We simply stopped reading the label. If that makes you want to go find some, two things keep you out of trouble. First, get the right plant. True Solomon's seal grows on a single, unbranched, arching stem, with its little bells hanging underneath it, tucked below the leaves where you have to lift the arch to see them. Its look-alike, false Solomon's seal holds its flowers in a fluffy plume at the very tip of the stem instead. Bells underneath the arch, you have the real thing. Plume on the end, you do not. Second, use the right part. The medicine is the rhizome, that jointed root under the soil, the very same root that named the plant. Not the berries. Come autumn, the true plant hangs small, blue-black berries beneath its stem, and those are the one part you never touch. They are toxic to people, even though the birds swallow them and spread the seeds just fine. Past that, the plant nearly hands itself to you. It thrives in dry shade, the stubborn corner where almost nothing else will grow, across most of the country. And there is a real chance it is already standing in a garden on your street. Maybe already in yours. That is the strange thing about Solomon's seal. Nothing was ever hidden. No agency banned it. No company locked it in a vault. It stood in the open the whole time, handed out by the millions with an award ribbon on it, and we still managed to lose it. Not the plant, just the reason for it. A root your great-grandmother would have known on sight became, in a single generation, a nice green backdrop for the hostas. The plant never changed. Only what we remembered about it did. If that kind of story pulls at you, the things standing in plain sight that we somehow forgot how to see, subscribe and stay with the vault. Your own backyard is full of them, and we are going to keep digging them up, one at a time.